I'm here again with Gary Fraley, founder and owner of Fraley and Fraley Law Firm. For today's video, I thought we'd talk a little bit about Chapter 13 reorganization plans. So for those of us who are not so well versed in the law, can you give us an idea briefly of what a Chapter 13 actually is?
Well, as you say, it's a reorganization plan that goes over 3 to 5 years, depending on your circumstances, that controls your debt, oftentimes will wipe out credit card debt and things like that, lets you keep your home, your car, and other assets like that, and maybe pay off tax debts and things like that.
So who are the payments actually being made to in Chapter 13?
Well, there's a trustee that payments are made to in the form of cash or certified funds. And that trustee, their job is to take that money and pay your creditors out there what the law says they ought to be paid.
So what types of people are the best candidates for a Chapter 13? Is there a type of a situation people might be in where a 13 makes the most sense for them?
Yes. Typically we see people that have medical expenses that have been incurred, or there's been a loss of income, and maybe they're back on their feet but they're behind on all these debts, they're being sued or being threatened, and the collection agencies are calling. We're going to stop all that. We then take and control the debt, and we pay it according to a reorganization plan. Oftentimes that means we pay nothing to the people like credit cards and medical bills. Sometimes we'll have somebody that the income has gone down and is still down, but it's sufficient to do a reorganization.
So who actually determines how much money they have to pay in this type of a plan?
That's determined on a couple of bases. One is something that we refer to as the means test, that the bankruptcy law requires to go through to determine if there's money left over. The other is a reality test. How much money do we have? What is it going to cost? And can they support that plan?
One thing that a lot of people hear, and we're not sure how good or bad the information is depending on the source, is that a Chapter 13 is a way to save your house if you're in foreclosure. Can you give us the real deal on that? How does 13 work with saving a house that's, say, a month away from a trustee sale?
Well, this is a very common thing, probably the most common situation that I deal with. And what happens is when we file the reorganization, it stops them from going to the next step in the foreclosure process. They cannot. There's a restraining order. It's called an automatic stay that says, no, you don't get to do anything further to take this house or the car or garnish a check or whatever from the client.
So what happens with all of those arrears and the mortgage payment? How do they get handled when you're in the 13 plan?
Well, in the 13 plan, we can set up where the ongoing mortgage payment is made by the trustee to the lender. We can take whatever you're behind, foreclosure fees, the whole works, and we can divide it out over 36 to 60 months depending on what your need is in terms of the debt size and the payment that can be made. This is not something that the creditors have a choice in. As long as we play by the rules, we get to do this, and they can't do anything about it. We refer to it as a cram down. Speaking of cram down, one of the things that is really fun in my office is a lot of times we have people that have 2 mortgages, sometimes 3 or 4 mortgages, and the house isn't worth the amount of the first mortgage, but they want to keep the house. In a Chapter 13, oftentimes we can strip off, we can wipe out the second mortgage and take it off of the home permanently if they do a successful plan and they get to the end of the payment schedule. And we save clients tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases by getting rid of that debt forever.
So what happens when they do get to the end of the plan? I've signed up, I've done the Chapter 13 plan, I've kept all my promises there, and I've made my last payment to the trustee. What's my situation now?
At that point, you're going to owe nothing but the ongoing mortgage payment on your first mortgage if you have a house. Cars, things like that will have already been paid off through the plan. Oh, by the way, when we talk about vehicles and things like that, we're not talking about the amount you owe. We're talking about the fair market value of the vehicle if it's a lot less than you owe. In many instances, we can force them to take much less than what is owed. We also are able to change the interest rate on the vehicles down to 5.25% and sometimes even less than that on the amount that we have to pay.
With some of the other debts you mentioned, like the mortgage arrears and the tax debt, do those get paid with interest and penalties, or are they paid off as straight division?
They're paid off without interest, without penalties. A favorite saying of mine is when people have IRS debts, to consider this an interest-free loan for 5 years from the IRS. It's a real fun concept.
Well, again, thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. How can people get a hold of you for more information about whether a 13 would work for them?
Well, what they ought to do is, first of all, they ought to go download from my website, that's ca-bankruptcy-attorneys.com, the ebook, 48 Do's and Don'ts when Considering Bankruptcy. Second thing, or equal to that, is pick up the phone, call my staff. They're friendly, they're helpful. They'll set you up an appointment with an attorney. You don't have to come in here because you're thinking about doing bankruptcy, but you come in here for the information. And the sooner we do that, the more likely that we're going to get a good result in a Chapter 13 reorganization or perhaps a straight bankruptcy.
Okay, well, thank you again for your time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.